Beijing, China, July 27, 2025. A breathless night in Beijing. Flash floods struck suddenly in the dead of night. People jumped out of windows to escape. The national highway vanished beneath muddy waters. The wind howled through cracks in the door. Rain lashed fiercely on tin roofs. In Miyun County, Beijing, early on July 27, 2025, a group of 7 people clung to each other in panic, trying to survive in chest-high swirling floodwaters. "We had no choice but to jump out the window," said Visitor Pan with a trembling voice. "The water rose so fast we didn't have time to think, we just jumped." At the most desperate moment, a fire department bulldozer appeared, digging through mud and debris, clearing a path that saved them by a hair's breadth. Those terrifying hours were just part of a massive flood disaster sweeping northern China. Beijing, the nation's top political and economic center, was put on red alert. Miyun, Huairu, and many outer districts issued emergency warnings simultaneously. Heavy rains turned familiar roads into rivers, sturdy bridges into piles of broken metal, and peaceful villages into muddy wastelands. The rain started on the afternoon of July 26th, first seeming like a typical summer shower, but after midnight the sky tore open and rain poured down like a waterfall. In just over half a day, some areas recorded rainfall exceeding 300 millimeter, an unprecedentedly large amount. Especially in Puyang County, neighboring Hebei Province, rainfall hit a record 532 millimeter, with an hourly intensity of 145 millimeter, breaking all historical records. The flood came suddenly and violently. In Fengjia Daytown, Miyun, residents were caught off guard. Power outages, communication blackouts, and roads completely cut off. Some villages were isolated, only reachable via maritime satellites. Photos sent out showed rooftops barely visible above muddy water, mud and rocks crashing through walls, washing away crops and vehicles. At the same time, National Highway 234, a key route connecting Beijing to Xinjiang, was split in two by floodwaters. The road section between Shuqing and Fengjiawu towns disappeared, leaving a gap over 100 meters long. The next morning, people witnessed a horrifying scene: shattered concrete roads, empty earth pits, and roaring water flowing through deep gullies. Beijing rescue teams were immediately mobilized at full strength. Miyun District alone deployed 5 special teams, 56 firefighters, and over 1,200 county-level rescue workers, coordinating with city rescue teams, totaling more than 250 reinforcements. That night, flashlights, sirens, and excavator sounds echoed everywhere. Groups of stranded residents were carried through swift currents, hands joined together to pull people from collapsing houses. In some areas, floods did not only come from the sky. The Miaogang Reservoir suddenly released emergency floodwater, causing a sharp rise in the lower reaches of the Luo'an River. Xinhongqi village in Chengde was submerged, Zhangde Ying Bridge was washed away, and thousands of households lost electricity, water, and communications. "We only heard the roaring water and then the lights suddenly went out. No one could understand what was happening," a local resident recalled. Viral images on social media left people breathless. Streets turned into muddy rivers, cars floated, some overturned, others stuck between utility poles. A bridge that once connected 2 villages was now just a twisted metal frame. In Puyang County, the scene was even more haunting. Residents lay on floating wooden beds inside houses, clinging to anything that floated. Many cried when they were brought to safe evacuation points, unable to believe they had survived. By the afternoon of July 27, 2025, at least 46,235 people in 6 communes and towns of Puyang County were affected. 2 people died, 2 went missing, and nearly 5,000 were urgently relocated. These numbers are expected to rise as many remote areas remain unreachable. In Beijing, Ping An Property and Casualty Insurance Company received 158 flood damage reports on July 27th alone, mostly about cars submerged in mud. Compensation claims are estimated in the hundreds of thousands of yuan and are increasing hourly as floodwaters recede, revealing devastation. Some vehicles showed only roofs above mud. Rescuers sighed, breaking doors to pull people out. Not just vehicles, houses and crops were also drowned. 31 rivers across northern China, Beijing, Hebei, Inner Mongolia, Shanxi, Yunnan, Xinjiang simultaneously exceeded warning levels, some rising over 4 meters. The Ministry of Water Resources warned that rain would continue for 48 hours, causing water levels in many small and medium rivers to rise further, with extreme risk of flash floods and landslides. Facing the severe situation, Beijing authorities activated a Level 2 emergency response. Districts immediately evacuated residents from low-lying areas, cut electricity to prevent fires, and set up checkpoints at vulnerable bridges. Convoys of large trucks carrying earth and materials worked overnight to temporarily repair roads torn apart by floods, aiming to restore traffic the next day. Every hour was a race against time to save roads, save people, save lives. Amid the chaos, there were touching moments. A little girl was carried out from a flooded house, her hair muddy, but her small hand still clutched an old teddy bear. An elderly man, trembling on an excavator, folded his hands in thanks to firefighters who rescued him from a collapsing house. Among mud and tears, hugs, bottles of water passed hand to hand, and hurried blankets became bonds that connected people. No one could forget the image in Wuqi, Shanxi province, where the flood swept away a gold shop, exposing hundreds of taels of gold in muddy water. People rushed to search, but the shop owner sobbed, "Even if you find it, you cannot take it away. Losing gold can be recovered. Losing people cannot." These words echoed amid hundreds of families still anxiously awaiting news of missing loved ones. This is not the first time Beijing has suffered historic rains, but this time the situation was worse because of rapid urbanization, dense construction along rivers, blocked flood drainage canals, and soil that could no longer absorb water. Warnings about planning and climate change are now visible right before our eyes. Natural disasters become more extreme, while humans struggle between development and safety. On the night of July 27th, as floodwaters began to slowly recede, leaving thick mud covering village roads, many people still could not believe they had just lived through a disaster. Houses once full of laughter were now cluttered with broken beds, cracked walls, and floating personal belongings. The smell of mud mixed with gasoline was pungent. Children stared blankly at yards now just muddy pools. Life would have to start again from this rubble, but the scars in people's hearts are hard to heal. "I just hope the rain stops," Mrs. Pan said quietly, her eyes red. That simple sentence, in the dark after the flood, echoed like a prayer shared by tens of thousands in northern China.